Regular viewers of this channel will know I recently made good use of my dive accident insurance when I took a mild DCS hit. I made a video about this incident and my recovery and briefly touched upon how thankful I was to have solid dive accident insurance in place. Now it's time to go a bit deeper and debunk some of those dive accident insurance myths. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Divers Ready. My name's James. As always, so great to see all of your smiling faces. Today we are going to be discussing some of the common myths surrounding dive accident insurance, and at the end of this video I'm going to be telling you how you can enter our giveaway for a chance to win a gear-packed swag bag courtesy of D.A.N, so stay tuned for that. This video is part of our sponsored series of videos courtesy of Divers Alert Network. I want to say a great big thank you to everyone who watched our previous videos in this series, especially on the benefits of D.A.N membership, and especially those who commented with stories of how D.A.N has personally helped them. You guys are the reason I get up in the morning. There are very few brands in the scuba diving world who have such a unanimous positive following as Divers Alert Network. I have been a member and a customer of D.A.N throughout my diving life, long before YouTube came anywhere near my career. I couldn't be happier than to partner with D.A.N because our goals are one and the same: to make you a better, safer diver. So if you want to learn more about D.A.N's mission or become a member if you're not already, all the links you could possibly need are in the description of this video below. And I also want to say, any errors in this video are mine and mine alone, so don't be getting all mad at D.A.N if I mess something up, okay? Alright, let's debunk some dive accident insurance myths, starting with, I don't need dive accident insurance, my work, government provided healthcare, covers dive accidents. This is the biggest one. I hear this all the time. Does it though? Does it? Chances are your medical insurance from work does not cover dive accidents. While scuba diving is a relatively safe sport, it is still seen as a dangerous sport by most of the insurance community. Most dangerous or extreme sports are not covered by most employer-paid insurance programs, so carrying dedicated dive accident insurance is always the best practice. Best practice is to not presume you're covered. Read the fine print of your health coverage your workplace insurance provides, and that way you'll know if you need additional dive accident insurance or not. Spoiler alert, you probably do. As for government-funded healthcare, I can't speak for every country, but I'm from the UK, where we have the National Health Service, a taxpayer-funded healthcare system. The NHS does cover hyperbaric treatments for British citizens who have a dive accident in the UK. But if you're not a British citizen and you have a dive accident in the UK, don't worry, the NHS will still look after you, you'll still get treatment, and then they'll send you an invoice. And that's where dive accident insurance comes in real handy. And as a British national living in Florida, it's not like I can nip home for a quick NHS chamber ride when I feel a little fizzy after a dive. The vast majority of British divers do our diving outside of the UK. So if you need to get treatment, get care and get home after a dive accident in a foreign country, you need dive accident insurance. My credit card travel insurance has my back. It is very common for credit card companies to throw in travel insurance as a free perk to entice you to take their card. And if you travel a lot, this is a nice perk. But repeat after me, travel insurance is not dive accident insurance. We already looked at travel insurance for divers, and I will link that video up above there, but many credit card free insurance policies also exclude scuba diving, often deeming it hazardous or extreme. Some travel insurance policies offered by credit card companies will offer a sports rider, an addendum for which you can pay an additional fee for coverage of specific activities. However, these riders tend to be thin on details and lack the expanded benefits of a dedicated scuba insurance policy. Also, these types of travel insurance policies vary in their definition of diving. Do they cover free diving? Spearfishing? Do they have a depth limit? What about technical or CCR diving? No, probably not. Again, I care about your safety and I urge all of you to read the fine print on your existing coverage. You may be in for a surprise. dive accident insurance is written by people who understand the risks of diving. Generic travel insurance is not. So their attitude is, we don't understand diving, so it must be dangerous, so we won't cover it. Dive accidents don't happen to me. This is a good one. Yeah, let me correct your tense. I think what you meant to say was, dive accidents haven't happened to me yet. Listen, all type of insurance is a form of gambling. You're betting money on yourself getting hurt, and if you win, although I wouldn't call it a success, your prize is that your treatment and care are taken care of. And if you don't ever get hurt, well, that's an even better prize, and then think of your premium as your ante. I went 25 years in scuba diving accident-free, and then last March, based on 25 years of accident-free experience, I could have stood on the deck of the dive boat and proclaimed, I don't need dive accident insurance, dive accidents don't happen to me, and been proven immediately wrong. Anyone who goes diving can have a dive accident. I think there's this stigma that if you have a dive accident, you're a bad diver, and that is normally not the case. You can do everything correctly and still get hurt. Trust me, I know this all too well. Dive accidents can happen to anyone who dives. It's right there in the training materials. It's there in the assumption of risk documents that we all sign to go diving. Nobody is DCS proof. Nobody expects to be abandoned at sea. Nobody expects their liveaboard to catch fire or run aground. I could go on. Dive accident insurance is an unnecessary expense. Okay. I played rugby for 20 plus years, and rugby sent me to the hospital many times. I never needed rugby insurance though, because rugby isn't considered a dangerous sport. For most of those 20 years, I was also a diver, paying out my annual dive insurance premium every year and never having a dive accident. Until I did. If you look at the number of scuba dives that are done every day around the globe, and you look at the number of accidents per day, you would say that the odds of getting into a dive accident are incredibly low. However, the typical cost of a dive accident is very high. Treatment in a recompression chamber following a DCS incident can easily cost the uninsured tens of thousands of dollars. In addition to covering the cost of medical expenses due to a dive accident insurance may also cover the cost of transportation from the accident site to the hospital, and may also cover expenses following a dive accident in the event that you miss your flight home. For severe diving accidents, you may be covered for accidental dismemberment benefits, such as the loss of hands or feet or eyesight. Or what about repatriation? The event that your remains have to be transported home. Are these bills that you'd be happy to pay for yourself or have your family pay? Also, not having dive accident insurance can limit your opportunities. Here at Divers Ready, proof of active dive accident insurance is a prerequisite for joining any of our trips. You can't come on any of our dive trips unless you have dive accident insurance. My students at Miami Technical Diving are required to have dive accident insurance even though I have professional liability coverage. Why? Let's call it an intelligence test and leave it at that. No dive accident insurance, no dive with Big J. There's only one kind of dive accident insurance, so I'll just buy the cheapest. Wrong. Some policies have depth, gas mix, equipment, or overhead environment limitations on their coverage. So again, read the fine print. Never buy a dive accident insurance policy without knowing if the type of diving you're doing is covered. And honestly, there isn't that much of a spread between the cheapest and the most expensive dive accident policies. And if you took the top level of dive accident insurance, which I tend to do because I dive CCR and Tech, plus the sheer number of dives I do per year, the cost is still a drop in a bucket compared to what I spend on dive gear and travel. Now, this show goes out all around the world, so I try to avoid quoting prices in most instances. My best advice is very simple. Find the right policy for the type of diving you do and the places in which you do it. Shop around, read the small print. Chambers are commonly located near dive centres and popular dive destinations. Absolutely not. Well, not always. Hyperbaric facilities are incredibly expensive to build and operate, and many don't even treat divers. Worse yet, many of the best dive destinations around the world are located in less developed nations with healthcare systems that may not have the same capabilities you're accustomed to at home. So the assumption that chambers are everywhere is wildly inaccurate. However, in a dive emergency, D.A.N can provide rapid referrals to the nearest suitable chamber. And D.A.N is investing in expanding its recompression chamber network near popular dive destinations worldwide, so divers have access to this critical care when they need it. Divers who suffer a DCS incident in a remote location will need transport to a chamber that could be hundreds of miles away. Whether this includes low-flying aircraft or ground transportation, there is likely to be a humongous cost involved, a cost that you will be on the hook for if you don't have reliable dive insurance. D.A.N would also like me to remind you that there is no D.A.N helicopter sitting on the roof of D.A.N HQ waiting to be called to the scene of your accident and evacuate you to a chamber somewhere. That's not how it works. You still absolutely need to have an emergency action plan in place. You absolutely need to call local emergency services first. D.A.N will even review your emergency action plan with you free of charge. Just call D.A.N Safety Services or email them at oxygen@dan.org. I'm a D.A.N member, so I'm insured. D.A.N membership alone does not cover the costs of covered diving accident. We went over all the awesome benefits of D.A.N membership in the first video of this series, which I will link above there, but membership and being insured are two separate programs. Maybe you're an inactive diver taking a break from the sport, but you want to stay up to date and or support D.A.N's mission during your downtime. Great, you can be a member and not buy insurance and still get all the member benefits. But for most people watching this video who are active divers, remember you need to be a member in order to get access to purchase the dive accident insurance from D.A.N and then choose the policy that's right for you. Personally speaking, Karina and I carry the Guardian plan, which is the top level of coverage, because, frankly, we do a ton of diving. You need to look at the different options and choose the right plan for you. But if you're watching my channel because you want to be a better, safer diver, I hope I've either convinced you or reaffirmed that carrying dive accident insurance is just the smart thing to do. To enter to win this safety gear packed swag bag, courtesy of D.A.N, all you need to do is click the link in the description of this video down below, just down there, and follow the directions from there. One lucky winner will be chosen at random and contacted via email. May the odds be forever in your favour. As always, thanks so much for watching, and thanks again to D.A.N for partnering with us to bring you this content. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and I will see you in the next video. Dive safe, dive often.